Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters. And today we're going to talk about youth soccer in the United States and, probably spilling over in Canada as well. And this has all been triggered by an article this weekend that was in the New York Times, a newspaper. It's one of those paper things, but it was also online. It was written by a guy named Joe Drape, and it's about youth soccer participation has fallen significantly in America. When he says America, he means United States and probably Canada. I suspect it's probably doing fairly well in Mexico. It's one of those stories that sports writers trot out every once in a while when they've got space to fill, right? Or it fits a narrative, right? So the narrative this one fits is, well, the United States didn't make the World Cup, and therefore it didn't get the boost in soccer, and therefore the number of kids playing has fallen off. The United States has always had a situation where as kids progress and become older, they end up getting poached off to other sports in the United States, which are more attractive to them for various reasons: basketball, football, baseball, hockey, particularly in Canada. Nothing new here, particularly, except that there are claims that it's happening earlier than it had before. Usually, it was about high school level where kids got just tired of the academies, which were really cramping them and moving them in an unnatural pattern in American sports, and decided they wanted to play in high school and just would walk away, right? Or decided they wanted to go play a sport where they had a more likelihood of actually accomplishing something and walked away. Uh, these have been problems soccer's had for years in the States, and the United States Soccer Federation, being what it is, has really shot itself in the foot repeatedly and often in this area. They just are terrible. Um, Soccer has in the United States blossomed somewhat, but it's done it despite the United States Soccer Federation and despite the MLS, right? Anybody who's watched has seen this. Uh, okay, so let's look at what they're saying happened. They're saying in the last 3 years, kids playing in the 6 to 12-year-old zone have been dropping out. It's down 14%, down 600,000 kids playing the sport. They point out that this has been a trend happening in other sports in the United States. However, baseball and basketball, MLB and NBA put in place things to make that stop and get their lower level leagues going and get kids interested again, and they've turned it around. Soccer has not and doesn't seem anywhere near doing it. As a matter of fact, seems to be going the opposite direction. Uh, now, and you kind of got to look at it and say, sure, I understand why this is happening in soccer, because soccer has just been amazingly bad at recruiting anybody outside of the suburbs. And I mean the upper class suburbs too. I don't mean working class neighborhoods. So let's kind of talk about what the problems in American soccer at the lower levels are. To begin with, they refuse to follow the American model. The American model is you grow up, you play pee wee football, maybe you play little league baseball, you play the equivalent in basketball, and then when you hit junior high school, in high school you go and play there, you play in front of your peers, you play in front of your parents, and then you leave that and you go off to college, you get another however many years, and then you go to the pro sports, right? This is a very workable system with which the NBA has made its peace, the NFL has definitely made its peace, and MLB, Major League Baseball, has made its peace. I'm assuming that hockey has as well. I don't know the lower levels as well for hockey, but the North American sports leagues have made their peace with this and made it work well. And we've got the best baseball players in the world. We've got the best football players in the world. Basketball, best in the world. Hockey, best in the world, although that's mainly Canada. It works. And soccer is refusing to follow this pattern. And it should easily follow this pattern. How hard would it be for high schools to set up really good pitches? They can't be that expensive. It's just a flat square piece of land or a rectangular piece of land. We've all seen them do it for football stadiums, which pretty much every high school in the United States has. They could do this easily for soccer. Soccer shouldn't cost that much to set up and get going, but it not the way soccer's done. Soccer has gotten into the we're going to do it the way the Europeans do it pattern, right? So they are trying to force us into the States, and it is failing. At the same time, it is somewhat succeeding. It hones a few people to a decent level, but not many, right? So here's what we got going on in the States. Academies have popped up all over the place, right? Now, these academies are generally attached to this or that soccer club team, whether it's an MLS team, a USL team, whatever, and they suck up people who can afford to pay to go there, right? Soccer fields aren't being built in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. They aren't being built in the middle of, a slum area. They're just not. And, they're not being invested in there because the people who are there can't afford soccer, right? You have to pay, to get into one of these academies, thousands of dollars a year. I saw a quote that said $2,500 for one of them. These academies ban the kids from playing in high school or in college, which is where you build grassroots support in the United States and where you could have a place that you could really get things set up and going. So the academies are harming more than they are helping. And it's kind of out of a greed thing, and it's kind of just out of pure stupidity. I do understand and somewhat agree with American teams trying to get their own talent and trying to lock it down and trying to train it up, and so that they have, that kid out of Kansas who's amazing, who's going to be the best soccer player in the world, ends up in DC United or, Sporting Kansas City or wherever, right? I get why they would try to do that, but by breaking the American system and trying to set in place this European system, they're really cutting their kneecapping themselves. They're cutting off the grassroots support. They are having kids that are being isolated from the other kids that they grow up with, and really providing them with a huge incentive to walk away, if for no other reason to go play soccer at their high school where their friends can watch them and their family can watch them. The academies have caused harm in that they keep people of, below a certain economic class out, and they cut off the kids who join them from everything else that would grow the sport. So they've been bad. And then it has truly weird things like coach certification. This is something I'm probably going to do a full-on blast on someday. But in order to coach, say, 13 to 14-year-olds, I think it requires a Class D certification, right? Class D certification requires that you go to 45 hours worth of training, in-person training. Has to be broken into 2 sections, which have to be at least 4 weeks apart from each other and cost $250 some dollars. Now that $250 amount may be low, because where I found that quoted was from 5 years back. So it's probably more expensive than that now. But on top of this, before you can do Class D, you have to do 3 separate certifications for grassroots licenses, which allow you to, coach teams that are 4-on-4, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, I think maybe 3-on-3. You have to choose like 3 of those, at least one of which has to be 11 on 11. One of those can be done online, 2 of which you have to go to a 4-hour training course somewhere, right? So you live in, say, where I'm at, Wise, Virginia. You want to coach youth soccer, and they tell you, well, you can take the online thing to coach one, but if you've got to go do these others. They're $45 each, so pony up $150, pony up the time to get these 3 different certifications, and then to actually get 13 and 14-year-olds, pony up the extra couple, $300-400, and go somewhere else 2 times and with at least a month between them, so you can get your Class D license, which would probably entail going somewhere like Richmond, Virginia, 6 hours away, or at least Roanoke, 4 hours away, to get certified in Virginia. It's insane. You want to coach your kid playing soccer. We're talking, probably close to $1,000, including travel, putting up at hotels, etc., etc. That's insane. You will choose to take your kid to Little League and have him go on there, as opposed to choosing to take your kid to, whatever soccer league and just being shut out because you can't possibly afford to do these things. Even if you got the money, the time thing can be insane. So that's another thing, that the certification thing just needs to go away. It's a bad system. The certification thing, basically just shakedown, folks, in case you haven't figured that out. It's a bad thing. They've done all these things to throw impediments in the face of a sport that's been trying to grow. Now, let's be clear here. A lot of people in the United States are going to go play no matter what. People who are immigrants to the States and come from a place where soccer is a big deal, they're going to play. And they'll play for enjoyment, right? But there's only so many of those. You need to develop kids in the heartland to play the sport. In order to develop these kids in the heartland, you've got to get kids playing generally, and you've got to stop the expensive, stupid stuff. Drop the European system. Just drop it. It's dumb. It works for them, but the reason it works for them is because they already have the grassroots support built, right? So that when you start putting dumb impediments in the way, people just keep coming because this is the sport they love. They're willing to jump through these hoops. They have enough people built up grassroots already to go do this, and to just keep the momentum going, and it hasn't impacted them. When you're trying to grow and actually begin a sport, you need to not have these impediments in place. I say these things. I know the United States Soccer Federation isn't going to do anything to fix this. It's been very clear that they're not going to do anything to fix this. They don't care, right? They care about protecting MLS. That's about it. I mean, that's all the United States Soccer Federation cares about. Yeah, and maybe having a good national team every 4 years for the tournament. But they don't care about youth soccer. It's very clear they don't care about youth soccer, because if they did care about youth soccer, they'd be doing everything in their power to make it a sport. And this is a sport kids love to play. It's fun watching kids play it, right? They should be doing everything they can to make this sport enjoyable and followed and played by every kid in the United States. And they're not. God help us. I don't know. I mean, I've become a fan of soccer later in my life. I think there are problems with the way they score matches, as in score for standings. But on the field, on the pitch, it can be a really fun sport to watch. But Americans aren't getting there. And they're not getting there because the United States Soccer Federation is doing everything it can to kneecap the process. fix yourself. For goodness sake, fix yourself so that people can enjoy this game. That's all I've got to say. If you like this, hit like. If you like what you see around here generally, hit subscribe. You'll probably want to hit the bell so that you get notifications. My understanding is weird things are going on with the subscription list now, that they're not actually showing you everything as it pops up. And beyond that, if you want to contact me directly, it's at LammersK on Twitter. Send me a direct message at LA2MsERSK. Direct message me. Comments below. Again, I promise I'll try to read them all. I cannot promise that that I'll reply on all of them. That pesky day job tends to get in the way. This is a hobby. I enjoy doing this, but it's still a hobby. And beyond all that, one last piece of advice. If you got a little bit of spare time, you got a little bit of spare money, go watch the minor league sports. Y'all have a good week now.